Hi there, my name is Matt Coleman. I'm one of the moderators and founders of Magnify World. Our company showcases the world's best AR, VR and emerging technology companies coming to market. We've been around for about 5.5 years championing the space, and our conferences are now focused on individual interviews. And today we have Dimitri Mikhalchuk, who is the co-founder and chief revenue officer of Teslasuit XR. Welcome, Dmitri. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. Thank you very much for inviting us to the interview.
So I'm currently in Los Angeles. It's probably early evening there for you, where you are in Europe.
It is, yes.
Yeah, could you tell us a little bit about your company, and in particular, I'm sure everyone's interested in the Tesla name attached to your XR product. Can you?
Yeah.
What's the story with that?
It's one of the frequent questions, and I can start with a name. Teslasuit came around a while ago. We're talking about 2010 or so. And back in the day, Tesla wasn't a household name for Tesla Motors, but this came as a tribute to the Nikola Tesla, the inventor of alternative current, AC, which we extensively use throughout the suit. We have electrical stimulation. We use that for various biometrical sensors and so on and so forth. So we took the name as a tribute to science itself, and the fact that back in the day when Nikola has launched the idea of commercializing electricity and actually making it available to everyone, he was usually looked at as a person ahead of his time. So when Teslasuit came out, we were also, the product was somewhat on the edge of being ahead of its time. Back in the day, VR was being relaunched. I think it was a third wave now, when Facebook picked up Oculus and all that story ignited the relaunch of VR. There weren't many devices that were taking care of the body itself in such a manner, and I think we're still holding the palm of being the first and the only full body haptic suit that uses electricity as a stimulant. And so that's how the name kind of stuck. And some people actually told us that, oh, you're riding the wave of Elon Musk popularity. We weren't. We started a while ago, so it was that long, but we were a small company, obviously, with no marketing budgets that would probably compare to what Elon does. And Elon is a good marketing guy. I mean, he's doing an amazing thing with different projects. And if you look at it, he never named other projects being Tesla anything. Yeah, we're talking about SpaceX or a Boring Company, or gigafactories, and you name it. So every brand is different. And we certainly didn't want to ride the wave of somebody else's fame. That wasn't the plan.
Sure. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about the product, because this is quite unique. And I've tried, obviously, VR headsets like 5 years ago or 4 years ago with a backpack that would simulate me driving a Formula One car, say, for example. But it felt like more of a DJ type of experience when you're next to a loudspeaker and you're in a crowd or something like that. You've really taken this to another, astronomical level, really, from what I can see, particularly with 5G applications, right? Just explain what it exactly is and how that biometric data and all the other information that you put into the suit, and what's it used for.
So, yeah, back in the day when we launched, everybody thought that the relaunch of VR, this new wave, will all be about entertainment. So we thought, oh, that would be great to apply our product to gaming. because it makes the whole experience very immersive. However, there was so much science involved in creating and making the suit that was indeed ahead of its time. We didn't want to overload the market with ideas that we laid out as a foundation for the suit. But today we're having a remarkable set of results with various research institutions and clients being large corporations. We started basically finalizing the case studies on the fact that electrical stimulation itself can be used in order to improve our brain function within the learning process. And for that, we've used VR and AR as a visual cue medium, but we're now also seeing applications outside the AR and VR. So the Teslasuit, to explain, it's a two-way communication tool, we call it, because primarily it's a wearable device. It's made in the form of a standard sports suit that comes in two pieces, jacket and trousers. It wears like one, it feels like one. However, what it does to the body is amazing. Through the electrical muscular stimulation and transcutaneous neural stimulation, we're able to jumpstart the brain into the alert mode and utilize part of our survival instinct that's already embedded in us. And when the brain senses that something is happening to us, i.e. we generate a touch, we generate a light, very light stimulation that projects the brain into trying to release enough resources so the body could react to anything that will happen from this point on. And we found that the effect is actually working quite well in learning. So that's when memory is reallocated towards us exploring the outer environment and being prepared for anything. So when we bring the VR content, when we bring the oral stimulation, it all is being sucked by the brain and studied in more detail and more focused on every detail, and that causes us to remember things as an event, which is a bright event. It's almost like sending somebody through a shock of sorts, except for we don't send somebody into a shock state. We were talking with a good friend of mine, Cody, from NASA. He's the head of Human Performance Labs, and he said so even before we realized what we had in our hands, he said, well, guys, do you understand that the theory went around that if we were so the best memories are usually from the events that are shocking to people, like somebody goes through a crash, and if they survive, usually they can remember every frame of what they saw during the crash, and it stays in their head for the rest of their lives. It changes them forever. So he said, well, imagine you're actually having something close, except you don't need to send somebody through a crash. It will cause that on a neurological level. And so back in the day, we probably didn't comprehend how revolutionary that could be. And this is what we ended up with. So initially we started positioning Teslasuit as a toy and using electrical stimulation for providing haptical feedback, sense of touch. We generated similar sensations as the wind would simulate on us, like wind pressure on the skin, different bullets in games. We've done it all. We've gone through. And thanks to electrical effects, electrical stimulation can actually generate a much wider range of sensations that would overlap the sound vibration, it would overlap the actuator vibrations and things like that. So this is what we started with. Now we're becoming more and more of a tool for scientists and training centers, for instance, to improve the cognition training.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that there is a big focus in training. But I just wanted to go back to the suit. So tell us, what's the material made out of? And
So
where are they manufactured as well?
So we own 95% of the process from the R&D to manufacturing. It's all done in house. The whole process is kept in a short proximity, so the R&D could talk to the manufacturers, to the manufacturing facility. The manufacturing facility talks back to the R&D for the product is very new, and we needed to make adjustments at a very short period of time. We analyzed different approaches from different startups on their products, and whilst the logic would dictate to build something like a lean startup with everything outsourced, the feedback came that once you outsource, you have a lot less control over the processes on different stages. So, and that would mean time. Time means money, and when you're a startup, you need to save that time, save the money, so make sure the money works 10 times the efficiency of normal situation. So that's why we build everything ourselves, and we're controlling the process.
And what's
obviously
the actual
When we started, we used mostly neoprene. This is the material that's being used in swimsuits. The reason for selecting the neoprene was that it provides both flexibility of the fabric, but also the rigidity or semi-rigidity of the base, because we needed to put electronics onto fabric, and that was the challenge. So the fabric had to be flexible for the body, but at the same time was supposed to support the framework of the electronics, albeit flexible, but it still needed some support. So we started with neoprene, but since then we went through, I think, a very deep research on materials. We've changed the format quite a few times now. So we're arriving now to still synthetic materials, but they're much more flexible and thinner. And we want to, the idea is to arrive to the point where Teslasuit feels like a base layer that you use for your skiing. So it's really thin layer that you would put under the clothing, close to your skin, so we could so we would be able to read the biometrics, but it would be unintrusive, you know, so it wouldn't limit your movement, it wouldn't provide too much of a distraction. The idea is to, and this is where we started sort of branching out, is to supply medical rehabilitation facilities with the capability of the suit, to supply the enterprise with an additional layer that would provide rich data, so it could be analyzed, so it could enable the different verticals into collecting big data and actually being able to analyze everything in real time. We're talking about if we needed to provide proof of life, if we needed to provide a feedback on what the person is doing, so safety could be improved. We're talking about many other aspects. When we fly to space, we wanted to have less weight. We've already done some studies and preliminary tests in 0G. We've done a 0G flight, which was a success. And now we're progressing to stage 2, for example. And this is the last stage before we can fly the Teslasuit to the International Space Station. So there are many angles that we're working in.
Amazing. And of course, you've said you were talking to NASA about their project, and I guess you know, SpaceX could be on your agenda, which you probably can't talk about too much.
Well, we're seeing space tourism as the next big thing, and we need to prepare for that as well. It'd be exciting if we could be selected as a go-to product as well.
Excellent. And look, just for the entrepreneurs in the audience and the investment community, I know we talked about funding, and you know, you've been working on this for a few years, and you based yourselves out of London. and you've got a global investment community around you. I mean, how much does it take to actually get a product like this to market usually, or a product? I know you probably can't divulge your direct funding, but what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the general rule of thumb was that if you wanted to launch a hardware product, then back in the day when I was studying at university, talking about late 2010 maybe, the rule of thumb was that you'd need to spend on average 6 million British pounds, which was around $10 million. So we cannot divulge into the financials of our company we decided never to disclose, well, not to disclose at this stage how much we've raised. But I would say that it looks like it would cost as much to. It would obviously, the figure would depend on the maturity of the market that you're trying to target. Obviously, for us, the market is new. We had to pave the way. We had to explain. We're still doing a lot of educational work around what haptics means, what biometry would bring into XR, AR, and enterprise, for instance. So we're still spending more than you'd normally spend on a product launch. Yeah. So it's costing a bit more in marketing. It's costing a bit more in evangelism of the product. But generally, yeah, it would cost probably $10 million around that amount, especially if you want to launch a global product.
Yeah.
And one would face challenges in every market as a territory.
And tell us about, I was intrigued to see what you were doing with the rugby in the UK with the launch of 5G with one of the telcos. That's a fascinating story, because from the other side of the room or the world, you could be tackling someone and feel the power. I mean, how does all that work? Can you just tell us what you did with the 5G launch there?
Yeah, that was a fun activation that we've done with Vodafone UK. Vodafone was launching their 5G network, and we needed to come up with something that would prove that 5G would provide us not only with high speed and low latency, but we needed to show the real real life application. So Vodafone, together with us, we came up with an idea to provide a remote tackle. This is where we took a dummy and we fitted the dummy with the accelerometer that would react to it leaning, and the speed of that, the velocity with which the dummy was changing the angle would translate into the force that's been applied to it. And so we had kids tackling it, and then the person that was based in London, one of the Wasps team player, was wearing the Teslasuit, and obviously the tackle would then be completely transmitted onto him. And because we use muscular stimulation, so that would cause a set of contractions in the body, physical contractions, so physical implants. Whenever the dummy was being hit, he could feel that. And that was the fun moment. And obviously we told him there's going to be a couple of kids, trying it, and he'll have to stand there and show us what he's got. And then in the end, we sent his friend, one of the big guys, to tackle the dummy. Obviously, he wasn't prepared for that, but that knocked him off his feet. So that was a fun moment.
Wow!
It was.
I saw the video with that.
Yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, I was just going to say, you must have been pretty beat up after like hundreds of tackles. But can you see?
Well, luckily we didn't need many tests.
Yeah, no, exactly. Can you see this being used in different contact sports, as a training mechanism? Because I know you're focused on enterprise and training, obviously in all different areas of businesses, but just talk about sport for a moment. Say the NFL, very contact sport, rugby union is obviously as well, and rugby league and things like that.
Yep.
And with COVID now, they haven't been able to train, like they had been. And, I also, and I know what the NFL teams are doing. You know, they have a daily call around training, but you know, of course, well, there's no contact. I wonder whether this could break open the market for you in those sectors of the area and really feel the effects of what it's like to be on the field when they're actually at home. That's what I'm saying.
Well, we've tested our waters in sports extensively. So we've tried different kinds of sports. Not all of it was available in the form of a publicly available video, but one sport that we actually had a nice activation, and which is progressing actually. The launch is postponed because of the COVID, but we're still doing some work on it. Is boxing. This is one of the kind of contact sports where the boxers have much appreciated the fact that they can have a sparring without the bruising that would come along with it. Because I know one of the boxing stars has failed at his very famous match because he got injured during the training. Right. So exactly that. So, and we were told the feedback that comes back is that the psychology stays there, the movements are there because Teslasuit reads the motion of the person, full skeletal positioning. So boxers can have a proper spar, and they can feel the hit without actually being hit. So that's the advantage in this specific case. So even before the COVID itself, it brings a capability which wouldn't otherwise be available. So a lot of even with professionals, we tried it. We tried two of the guys who kindly agreed to test the suit and give us the feedback. One was I think a bronze Olympic champion. And the other guy was one of the European champions in boxing. So I saw it as a very valuable feedback, the fact that they could actually have a full-on, at full speed and full force kind of training, and we placed them in the proper ring with Teslasuit on. And they were fighting. Yeah, they were fighting. They would put VR headset on. I can still see that we need to make some adjustments so it stays on. Boxers are very fast people to move around, and they move a lot with their head. But the suit, because it wears like normal sports suit, they had no issues with that. They had more issues with the headset because it kept on sliding every now and then when they were maneuvering. But otherwise. They said the fear factor was there. They knew that they would be hit if they missed with their defense, and they could see the movements as well. They could recognize the moves. It was our speed of recognition is very high, so to the eye it looks instant. So there was no delay. With 5G, we'd be able to transmit that. We could have a match between boxers without the need to even leave the town.
Amazing.
From different cities. Yeah.
And what are the suits cost? If is it? Do you sell them in bulk, or can you buy one? And do you do a turnkey solution, like with the actual experience in terms of the headset experience, if it's a particular process or company that wants to implement something?
Currently, the suit is not a retail kind of product that you'd find in your Best Buy and on the shelf. It is being sold as a development kit. So currently, we're targeting the developers and the end customers, which is enterprise who can afford a whole programming department, for example, and they create their own custom solutions for their custom problems. We're working towards making the suit, obviously, a consumer product at some point. We're still a few years away for we need to work on the supply chain, and obviously economy of scales would kick in, and then we'd be able to offer a better price. At the moment, the dev kit cost $12,999. There is volume discount, of course. We still want to attract as many developers, as many customers as possible. So we're actually selling. We pre-built the stock. Luckily, we pre-built the stock just before the COVID. So we're now sitting at homes, working remotely. But the warehouse that we've built the stock in is in Central Europe and is ready to ship out. And we've been actually shipping quite a few units during the COVID. For some cases, we managed to even introduce a special pricing, COVID pricing, trying to support the developers. We knew that developers wouldn't be back to work, and some of the budgets got slashed. So we tried to help the community as much as they tried to help us. So at the moment, we're inviting the community to give us a shout, and in some places like research institutions, we even came up with solutions where we're a solution-led company as well now. We're 150 people strong, mostly R&D heavy. So we have our own medical staff on payroll. We have our own scientists who've done some research, profound research in physiology, in electrical stimulation, electronics, and programming. So a bunch of people is available, and wherever we could. Yeah.
What about the US market? Are you just breaking into this? Because I know you've won a number of awards, which I wanted to talk about at CES in particular. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the US market and your clients here, or are you wanting new clients here in a particular segment?
Yeah, well, US market is our primary market, I think, primary target, to be honest. US have been the most advanced in terms of adoption on VR and augmented reality. So we always understood that, and we always worked with the US market. We have a lot of customers from US, and including NASA, for example. NASA was the first customer, by the way, who bought the first set of dev kits from us. So we see the US as a primary market at the moment, and we actually, if it wasn't for the COVID, we were about to open our Houston base. So, we've already shipped some stock into Houston, so that now it sits in the warehouse with nobody to attend to. So we wanted to launch the base. We wanted to open a center where people could come in and try it out, where we could talk about their projects, and I'm happy to give away some ideas how to make money with XR in general and things like that. So we could have a friendly chat, and somebody would see their idea validated with us.
And the CES award, was that for? Can you just explain your couple of awards there?
Yes, we've won the CES Honoree Award, which means it's a product that hasn't started retail sales. So because we didn't have, this is the second from the top award, which you can get without, which you can generally get. The top award is only available to products that are being sold in retail. So consumer products.
Yes, yeah.
We've submitted our product just before, the very last moment, and we were thrilled that we've been selected as nominees, let alone winning something.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. So, congratulations.
And exactly the same year, we actually won the Red Dot Award. Red Dot is a product design award that looks at utilitarian part of the product as well as the actual design aspect of it. And it is regarded in designer world, it's regarded as an Oscar of design, product design.
Yes,
so we were thrilled about that as well. We were glad that somebody looked at it. The judges at Red Dot has an interesting system where judges have to try it, see how they can use it, and actually award some points towards every product. And so now the Teslasuit sits in the museum next to Ferraris and iPhones, which is amazing. We couldn't even imagine that it would happen, and we were the first. I think one of the very few companies that the award we won with them was top product of the year. So we came up at the very top as a product with a huge potential.
Certainly got an interesting product of the future and now. That was my final question for you is, where do you see the AR, VR market and your innovation going in the next 5 years? And, potentially will smart glasses enhance, the experience for your users instead of the more bulkier headsets?
Well, seeing that VR is slowly making its way into the consumer market, but AR isn't yet. We still yet to see the AR consumer-friendly AR headset, and I'm still looking at various mobile phone applications. For example, I'm thinking that's not so easy to use. You wouldn't stand with the phone and keep on pointing it at people and objects in the street. That's not usable enough. You'd want the glasses that look like glasses, like Ray-Ban glasses, for example, thin and light, unintrusive, and so the glasses would recognize the objects and help you out in the form of augmented reality. So, but the industry that is picking it up, so industrial applications, are actually on the rise. Companies are realizing where they can use it, even despite the fact that the battery lifespan is short, like batteries not lasting too long. The field of view is very narrow compared to our eyes. So despite of all of that, companies are still adopting it, still using it. So hopefully, and they're actually bringing in the money into the industry, which is important for the industry to get mature and actually get to the point where we can offer the consumer the ever critical consumer, because any product that makes it into the consumer world has to survive the critique. Everybody will be using it differently. There will be thousands of ideas, and everybody will see the product from their own angle. So that's the challenge. That's the complexity. So I'm glad that we're actually have been accepted and embraced by the industries, various verticals. We're actually joining in the sports industry soon. We're making a new version that would be sports friendly, pro athlete friendly. We're also doing some medical research, and hopefully we'll be able to enable the telemedicine with a device that can actually not only detect the problems, but also provide the stimulus that's required. So the actual rehabilitation. So it's a two-way device that could help us out.
Excellent.
So this is where we're going right now. Once we hit the consumer market, it's all going to be the new. I can't even imagine.
Is that Ready Player One?
World for us.
Is that the Ready Player One model?
that's where it's all going. So that's where it's all going.
So if they haven't seen Ready Player One, go and experience what it could be like in the future, of course.
Absolutely.
Look, just one other question was, and probably the last question, which I did say before, would be, but thinking about your success with investors and the awards and get traction in the market, which is a fairly new market in the last resurgence here in the last 5 years. And what's the best advice that you've had from your investors to make this a success? Is there a particular stress point that they've advised you on to assist you moving forward?
One thing that I remember quite vividly, many investors have grilled us on. They were saying, look, this is the newspaper with 3 startups saying that they've raised upwards of 50 million, round A, B, whatever, and failed. That's the news.
Right.
How are you going to prove us that you'll survive? So they were grilling us on understanding how the business will work, how the roadmap will be built. Yeah. So we make sure that even with money that we're raising, with the successful rounds, we'll use the money sparingly and make it work double what the competitor could be using it. So the advice for the entrepreneur would be, don't get carried away by the funds raised. Always keep your head cool and always look ahead of what's gonna happen. Don't leave one like a short story. Always build for the future, and that's what's important.
Fantastic. Well, look, appreciate your time over in Europe there and the US time differences, and congratulations again. You've got a really exciting story, and I hope that our listeners and viewers will get a lot out of this, and you're really showing leading with innovation. So well done, and thanks for your time, Dimitri, and we'll catch you later.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Thanks very much.